A police officer returning home was suddenly faced with a brazen car theft attempt. 3 armed robbers burst into his garage, guns raised, and demanded his vehicle. But they chose the wrong target. Without a moment's hesitation, the officer drew his weapon and opened fire, forcing the intruders to flee. A daring robbery attempt at a supermarket ended in complete failure after a quick-thinking customer stepped in to save the day. The suspect pulled out a knife and threatened the cashier, demanding money. Terrified, she had no choice but to comply, until a man standing just behind her decided enough was enough. Seizing the perfect moment, he lunged forward, his right hand disarming the robber while his left and his body slammed the attacker to the ground. Completely caught off guard, the thief fell hard and was swiftly subdued as other bystanders rushed in to help. What began as a terrifying scene turned into a powerful act of courage and teamwork. Two armed thugs stormed into an office where 2 women and an older gentleman were working, waving their guns and shouting for everyone to raise their hands. But what they didn't expect was that the quiet, elegant man before them was far from helpless. In an instant, the elderly man exploded into action, lunging at one of the robbers with lightning speed. With remarkable precision, he locked the attacker in a firm hold, then drove him to the ground and pinned him effortlessly. By the time police arrived, the would-be robber was already subdued. A group of armed robbers in a red car, believed to be stolen, came to a sudden stop after spotting a white vehicle parked nearby. One man jumped out, waving a gun and threatening the driver to surrender his car. Fearing for his life, the driver initially fled to safety. But he wasn't about to let the criminals get away. From a secure position, he drew his own firearm and fired a warning shot that sent the gunman reeling in shock. In a swift reversal of fortune, the brave driver moved in, disarmed the stunned robber, and detained him until police arrived. What started as a terrifying ambush ended in a stunning act of courage and justice.
Fala, não deixa. Filha da puta.
This couple was enjoying a peaceful walk down the street when suddenly, 2 thieves on a motorbike charged straight at them. Without hesitation, the young man jumped into action, fighting fiercely to protect his girlfriend. With quick moves and determination, he managed to overpower one of the attackers. The robbery began when a masked man stormed into the store and tried to overpower a man who was speaking with the female cashier. But before the attacker could cause any real harm, another nearby customer sprang into action, grabbing the gunman's arm and slamming him to the ground, wrestling the weapon away in a fierce struggle. An armed robbery quickly turned into a complete disaster for this guy. He stormed in with a gun, threatening 4 male employees and 1 female staff member, rummaging through their pockets to steal cash and anything of value. But the moment he turned his back, one quick-thinking employee lunged at him, tackled him to the ground, and disarmed him. Without hesitation, the others jumped in to help, wrestling the robber into submission. Within moments, they had him restrained and called the police to take him straight to jail. It was just another ordinary day at this watch store, until everything descended into chaos when a guy walked in, holding a rock. Yes, you heard that right. A literal rock. Apparently, he had just invented a brand new weapon of mass destruction. With a determined look on his face, he began smashing the display case with his rock, blow after blow, until, crack, he finally managed to punch a gaping hole through the glass. But the shop owner was no pushover. Without missing a beat, she pulled out a freshly delivered Chinese polearm, straight out of a martial arts movie. With superior reach and a fiery fighting spirit, she launched a fierce counterattack. A bold armed robbery in broad daylight was stopped by some incredible citizens. Surveillance footage captured the dramatic moment when 2 hooded men tried to pull a man out of his car, demanding his watch and anything of value. But their plan quickly fell apart. As the situation descended into chaos, 2 brave and decisive men suddenly appeared, fearlessly confronting the robbers head-on without hesitation. This robber pretended to be a customer, then suddenly pulled out a knife and threatened the shop owner. But he didn't stop there. With reckless aggression, he leapt over the counter and demanded cash.
No key. Open it too now. You open. I got a fucking key, bro. How do you open it? No key. I don't know. What do you do? Sorry, bro. Open it. Open it now. No key, man. How do you open it? No key. How do you open it then? How do you open it then? No key. You open. No problem. How? Open the till. No, I just come in here 1 hour. Bro, listen. Open the till. No, man. How do you have the money in there? How's the money in there? I don't know, man. Hold up. I don't know. It's okay. I don't know. Where's the money? How do you open that? Get back. No, man. Open that. Yeah? No, I don't know. I just... Get out of the shop. Get out of the shop. Get on me. Put the cigarettes in there. 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 You put. No problem. You put. No problem.
Without a second's hesitation, the shop owner grabbed the robber's knife-wielding hand and shoved him hard against the wall, disarming him in an instant. Panicked, the robber tried to flee, but the owner caught him by the collar and slammed him against the counter. Just then, a woman walked in. She screamed for help, then bravely lunged at the robber. But he was too strong for her and managed to break free, escaping moments later.
Yeah, it's my child and I put that child. You can't, you see?
You alright?
Yeah,
This guy pretended to be a regular customer, calm, casual, and harmless. But in a sudden turn, he pulled out a knife and lunged at the shop owner. What he didn't expect was the fierce resistance. He had severely underestimated his target. Within moments, the tables turned. The shop owner fought back with speed and precision, and the attacker was subdued. Now, he'll be spending the rest of his years behind bars. A man was standing calmly at the cashier counter when suddenly, a masked robber burst in, pointing a gun directly at him and demanding cash. Without hesitation, the man tried to wrestle the weapon from the thief's hands. But the robber broke free and bolted toward the exit. Refusing to let him get away, the man gave chase. Locking both hands onto the gun, he drove his knee hard into the robber's groin, stunning him just long enough to wrest the weapon free. An armed robber stormed into a convenience store where an elderly man was quietly working. Without hesitation, the criminal brandished his gun and demanded that the elderly cashier open the register. At that very moment, a police officer arrived on the scene just in time. He carefully observed every move. Then, the officer drew his weapon and ordered the suspect to freeze. But the robber wasn't about to surrender so easily. He struggled and resisted, desperately trying to escape. However, the officer swiftly subdued him without firing a single shot. Justice was served, calmly and under control.